You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the July 24th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Common Council Gun Violence Prevention Workshop. You can find more information for this workshop by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right. So this meeting is called our Gun Violence Committee. And the purpose of this meeting, there have been several shootings and several arrests. And we know that we've had several calls of shots fired. But we wanted to talk a little bit because we basically have resourced some technology that has been put in the city, some cameras and some other technology that's coming, but that still is not curbing the fact that we have continued small percentages of individuals that are causing a lot of the gun violence that is happening here in Michigan City. And so we want to talk a little bit. I'm going to read a few things that the police department. We have our chiefs, Chief Forker is here, Assistant Chief Cooney is here, and they did provide some data. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the data before we have the dialogue. This is a workshop, a committee meeting, but let's look at it from the terms of a workshop that we will allow back and forth dialogue to hear from the community. And what we're looking to do here is to identify some solutions, and then those solutions will determine if there's money that's needed for those solutions or not. We see the mayor's here as well, and we just want to make sure that whatever plan that we start working on, that the community has buy-in into that plan. We know that we have several individuals here that have organizations that are focused on this as well that would like to speak. So we're going to keep this to about an hour and a half max, because I do want to make sure that we allow ample time for people who would like to say something to allow that opportunity. Because I see we have the NAACP here, Michigan City Black Business Association, the Keisha Foundation, and our council people. So we want to make sure we do that. So we asked for 3 years worth of data, and I'll just talk a little bit, just read from it, and then we'll allow the chiefs to talk a little bit about the technology and some of the things that they gave us a great deal of information that we will provide into the clerk's office, so that if you would like a copy, you can get it. But guns, rifles, shotguns, and handguns seized from January 1st, 2020 to July 18th, 2023. 734. There were 734 guns, and that's all types of guns that were seized. And this could be by way of arrests, search warrants, red flag laws, gun owners disposing firearms. So this is the total bucket. It's not broken out. So gun arrests from January 1st, 2020 to 7/18/2023, 270 gun arrests. Cause of shots fired during that same period, 1,533. So over 1,500. And then gun-related deaths during this 3-year time frame, more than 3.5 years, 17. And that's just here in Michigan City. And that's high for a city our size. So understand that here recently we know that there were several incidents with some of the same people. I know one of the things that I talked about, and this is something that our committee should think about, is some type of resolution to our judicial system, because we know that several of these individuals over the last several years are the same individuals that have been arrested multiple times. And we know that. So that means they're getting out on bond. I don't know for a fact if there's OR bonds, if they're out on bond when they get rearrested, but in many cases, these are the same individuals that are repeat offenders. And if the judges are letting them out on OR or letting them out when they're already on bond, that's a problem for Michigan City. And we need to make sure that they understand that we are serious about our streets and about our people. And that's a resolution that I think the council should bring forward to the prosecuting attorney's office and to the judges that are on the bench. And so that is something.
Please, Madam Chair. You mentioned that all these events have happened and that people are not being incarcerated and back on the streets. Has the prosecuting attorney been invited to this meeting? Was he invited?
No, this is really, no, because what we really want to do now is hear from people. I've talked to a few judges, but I will say this. I didn't want to turn this into a kangaroo court against them. I'd rather make sure we send something to them requesting information and statistics and data first, and not have a back and forth. I don't want to put them on trial by doing that.
Right.
So really, what we would like to hear from the community is some thoughts on, steps forward. And after this meeting, creating some type of resolution to send to them and then ask for a request of data information from them. Because if that's a request from us, if we need to go downstate, I did ask someone, they said, well, you might have to get the data and statistics from downstate for all the different bonds and, the arrests and all of that. So it may not be as simple as me just saying, can you give me the information? And the chiefs may be able to answer to that too. But one of my questions was, is there a way, I went to the courthouse last week, is there a way for me to pull arrest in a bulk, like in a data system, that I can receive a list of anything related to guns or shootings? And they said, well, no, you would need to know the person's name. You would have to research everyone individually. And I'm like, there's got to be a way to do that. So, yes, Councilwoman Chillman.
One of the ways that you could, it may be a little task to do it, and that is you can go on to IndianaMyCase.gov.
That's where I was.
And by looking at that, you can pull up all civil, you can pull it up by counties, and then you can look at the different type of charges that way, but you're gonna have to look at them line by line, but there isn't anything specific. However, I don't want to overspeak myself on behalf of the prosecutor's office. I'm under the umbrella from the criminal side, but it may be best to speak with the prosecutor or the chief prosecutor to get with their DPAs, and they may be able to comprise you of certain cases that's public record to let you know the type of cases and if they were gun related.
Because my question when I went to the courthouse, and it was an assistant to one of the office managers for one of the judges, was, can I pull a list of anything gun related and what type of bond individuals were given?
That will probably come from the clerk's office.
Okay. So what I would like to do before we get into the dialogue is allow the Chief Forker, if him and Chief Cooney would like to talk a little bit about some of the things that they're doing right now, in light of some of the things that have happened over the last couple of weeks specifically, but then how technology has helped, the new technology has helped in some of these cases that we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you, obviously, all of you guys for coming. I think we share a lot of the same concerns that everybody in this room does, right? The numbers are too high, and we want to help, obviously, reduce that. And I know a few of us have spoken in this room, and it's not something that we can just arrest our way out of. It's a culture, it's a mind shift change. A lot of things need to change. We can't just, again, I don't think it's a problem that we can arrest our way out of. So, just to go off of that a little bit, obviously. Starting at the end of June this year, we started our crime suppression unit. So we have 2 officers that are full-time. We call it basically intelligence-based policing. So working with our drug task force, working with our detective bureau, kind of a bridge in the gap between patrol and detectives. They're using more work hand in hand with the detectives involved and get a little bit more of a better understanding of who the players are. Right, and they're more, let's say it's more of again, intelligence-based policing. So they're using intelligence-based, from you know, some of the shots fired calls, some of the shootings, investigation, knowing who's involved and who's feuding with who. So those two officers have been working hard, basically to take a more proactive approach to patrol, and not just, you know, we're not just talking about traffic stops and, you know, accident reports and taking reports. It's, you know, using intelligence and essentially, you know, going after I would say the bigger type fish, the people that are actively involved in these shooting investigations. You know, we have several names that, you know, we're aware of, and, you know, they're constantly feuding with other individuals. So again, you know, those guys are out. It was right at July 3rd. We had a couple search warrants, served a couple of those, in which several firearms were recovered from that, and that was all spun up from our crime suppression unit. I think we ultimately arrested 10 individuals out of that, to include criminal gang activity and manufacturing, altering firearms as well. So again, that was just a little piece of the puzzle. But then, you know, throughout the next week after the 4th, we had another shooting, you know, so several individuals shot. I think there were 6 within a week at one point in time between. So we dealt with one group, and then the other groups, you know, just pick it up. So again, we're trying to use some of that, again, we call it intelligence-based policing, to try to take a more proactive approach to deal with those individuals involved. Obviously, we have the flock camera for us. Captain Urbancic said it the best, it's a game changer. It really gives us leads that we traditionally didn't have. So with those flock cameras, we can search a description of a car, gray four-door car, gray Subaru, gray Ford, and we can just start narrowing it down by searches and develop suspect information. You know, we're traditionally, you know, we're a vehicle owner, right? Somewhere to start. Where in the past, you know, we didn't have those. You know, our simple thefts that we could, shoplifting thefts from Walmart, Meijer, Menards, Lowe's, we see those all the time. And generally they're out of state or out of city individuals, and we never really had any, you know, here's a picture of the person involved, but nobody knows them. But then now with the flock, we were able to make, all right, they get a, you know, we're conveying information, get a vehicle description. That helps us, you know, search our database. So, you know, that information has helped leading to a vehicle owner. Okay, well, now we have a vehicle owner, we have a place to start. We had a shots fired over on the west side earlier. Once we got our flock cameras installed, the vehicle description was given. Officers did a quick search. The vehicle was located in Maryville, I think about 45 minutes later. You know, so we reached out to them and were able to detain and start to develop leads. You know, so that stuff has really been a game changer for us. The Raven, which is the shot detection part of the flock camera system, is finally, we're getting emails, is getting installed. So that's going to give us more instantaneous, more precise location on where these shots are being fired at. And those work in conjunction with our flock cameras to help identify, you know, vehicles in that area. So if a shot goes up here and we have flock cameras in that area, right away we can have intelligence to go on. Because, you know, we've all played the phone game, right? You know, you call in 911, yes, it was, you know, a gray car, and then dispatch gets it and they write down, you know, a gray or silver car. Well, then when they communicate it over the radio, it becomes a silver car, and then it was an SUV, and, you know, by the time we get there, it's, you know, sometimes that information gets construed. It doesn't happen every time, but, you know, so that stuff, it just eliminates some of those errors, and it gives us immediate information. Whereas, right, you know, the phone tag game, right? Someone has to call 911. 911 has to process that information and then convey it over the radio. You know, that all takes time, which slows down response time. So with the flock and the Raven, those things working hand in hand, it's more instantaneous. Where when our officers have that stuff available on their laptop computers, shot detection, you know, 200 block of York Street, well, we know that right now, and we're not waiting for dispatch or someone to call in. You know, we've unfortunately, I would say some neighborhoods have become numb to the shots fired, and that's unfortunate. You know, this should not be a regular thing that we hear in our neighborhoods that we're okay with, or we're like, oh, someone else will call it in. Okay, those are quality of life issues that we shouldn't have to deal with. So, you know, unfortunately, people aren't calling in all the time because it's like, well, yeah, nothing happened last time.
Yep.
Okay, or they didn't, you know, or they assumed somebody else was gonna call in, and they didn't. You know, so now we're even farther behind the game. So that technology obviously is gonna help us get more accurate information and get it more in a timely manner. So the flock has really been a game changer, and I think the installation of the Raven here in the near future, again, they've already, I believe they've set locations, they've had site surveys, so that stuff should be going up soon. There was a holdup there with basically using poles, right?
Oh, okay.
There was an issue with permits and getting NIPSCO permission to use some of their poles.
When do you think that'll be
I think
done?
within,
Mid-fall or?
no, it'll be within, I think, about
45.
3 weeks.
30 days.
Yeah, 3 to 4 weeks, I would say.
Into August then, right?
Yeah, the planning department has helped expedite those permits and whatnot for the city. So basically, we just skipped that, and now we're installing our own poles and everything needed, so we're not relying on somebody else.
Is this for the cameras or
The shot detection.
Okay.
Okay, the cameras are all in. The ones that all have been approved are in and functional, and again, they're already a game changer in developing accurate lead information.
I think we all know that to prevent shots fired, you need a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But with these cameras and when you get them all in, especially if somebody fires multiple shots, then they should have enough video that we can.
Yeah, and again, we already have an idea of a lot of the players, you know, it's just, and we know, you know, where they're coming to and from, you know, so we have those ideas already, it's just, you know, catching them in the act of it. You know, that's the biggest thing. You know, we go to, I know Councilwoman Nelson Deitch talked about, you know, if anybody wants, we have a few extra copies here, some statistics here, sorry, I'm pulling up some more detailed information. So over the last basically 3.5 years, you know, we've had 1,500 calls for shots fired. I mean, basically that averages out to 421 shots per year. Okay.
And that's probably not even, I think, not even a good number. Once we get the flock in, we'll
Oh,
probably.
100%. You know, that I would say that, so that's reported, right? And again, that's reported numbers. So we get so many calls for service that are unfounded. That somebody calls, they didn't see anything, but hey, I heard 5 or 6 gunshots over here. So we go, we check it out. Either we try to look for it. Sometimes people are willing to say, yeah, it happened right there. We know where it happened. We can find shell casings. You know, we take reports on every single one of those. There's cases where people just call and say, yeah, there's 5 or 6 shots fired. I don't know anything else. Come check it out. And we go and we check it out, and there's nobody out there to meet us or to talk to us, point us in the right direction, give us any kind of description of anything. And those calls essentially go unfounded. We don't know if it actually happened or not. You know, they called in. Some of those turn into fireworks this time of year. So people call in for those things as well. So those really all get classified as shots fired. So there's the 1,500, you know, again, it could be swayed either way. I think with the Raven, we're gonna have more accurate information. We'll be able to pull our calls for service, which is anybody that calls in or any report, and we'll be able to pull data from the Raven as well to be able to show those. And again, that's, you know, an AI intelligence stuff that is supposed to be able to dictate the difference between fireworks and gunshots fired and breaking glass, and just supposed to pinpoint shots fired. So that data, I think, will be more accurate. You know, we'll be able to compare it to the calls for service, right? When people call into dispatch or call into the police department and report those.
Can I ask a question? So I made that comment about repeat offenders. Just in general, I don't want you to get into specifics, but is that a thing?
It is a thing. So, and then we've already spoke to the prosecutor's office about it, you know, so that's something that they're willing to take a harder stance on, and, you know, to work, you know, on those cases. of gun violence type cases. So it is a thing. There are individuals in this community that we've dealt with multiple times,
Okay.
Regarding gun violence.
Would that be most of the guys working for y'all undercover or something? Because, man, it's sad. You were talking about that robot thing or whatever, but whatever happened to the community meeting with people in their own neighborhood to see stuff? Because I ain't got time to wait on what you're talking about, because it's bad out here, man. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me say this too, because it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
The best way I can say it.
see?
If there's shootings and they're happening, and we're not providing information about what's happening, us as parents or us as neighbors or us as whoever, what does the police do with that? That's why technology is important. We never had the technology before. Now we have it, and all it is a gap filler. It still is not going to solve all the crimes. It's still not going to solve the crimes. You're still going to need people to speak up, to say something, because otherwise, if the individuals who are suffering from these losses, we got some people right here who birthdays, and if the family doesn't push it, then it just, we have a lot of, unsolved, homicides.
We do.
And in most cases, people know,
People know something, but
they know
Don't say
something,
nothing.
but won't say anything. And that's our community mostly, because I wanted to read something. It's mostly, when I say our community, I'm talking about the black community in that sense. It says, quick facts about gun violence research. And this is from some information from the CDC and the Education Fund to Stop Gun Violence. It says, gun violence is the leading cause of death for black males under the age of 55, and the second leading cause of death for Hispanic Latino males under the age of 34. Young black males ages 15 to 34 make up 2% of the U.S. population, but account for 37% of all firearm homicide victims. So black males 15 to 34 make up 2% of the population, but account for 37% of all firearm homicide victims. In 2015, 26% of the firearm homicides in the U.S. occurred within census tracts that contain only 1.5% of the population. So these are the conditions that increase the likelihood of community gun violence. It includes easy access to guns by people at elevated risk for violence. Well, Indiana, we know that, 18-year-olds. Income inequality, concentrated poverty, underfunded public housing, under-resourced public services, and underperforming schools. So when we look at the list of areas that most of these things have occurred in, they're all in low-income census tracts, predominantly Eastport West Side and Elston Grove. And these are where the majority of all the homicides and the shootings are happening. So, I mean, facts are the facts, but again, we know there's some underlying issues. I do have a question. Are there some other things outside of the technology that you all are doing before I start allowing the public to start giving some input?
yeah, I mean, like I indicated before, we started the crime suppression unit, right? So those guys are out there again using intelligently based policing. Obviously,
The cameras, the ring.
Yeah,
Can you talk
yeah.
about that?
We have new body cams through utility body cam and in-car cameras, which also allows us a portal to allow residents to register their cameras. We'll post that back on our Facebook page after tonight's meeting. But there's a link that community members can sign up and register their cameras, right? So if you have Ring doorbell cameras, you have Ring floodlight cameras, any kind of surveillance cameras, that allows us, we don't get access to your cameras. It just says, hey, I have cameras at this location. So if something happens in your neighborhood, we don't necessarily have to knock on your door. We can look at the registry and we could send you a private link or an email, a message. When you sign up, you have to either give a valid phone number or a valid email to verify. And then we can essentially reach out to you, quietly, for camera. We don't, some people don't want to be out front spoken and say, hey, yeah, come over here, right? Because you have to live here. You understand that. It's tough. You're in a bind. You don't want that stuff here. But on the same note, you live here. And when the police are knocking at your door and go inside and spend an hour recovering video, what are the people across the street that were just involved in that thinking? Right? They're like, well, so-and-so's snitching on me or ratting on me. This is a portal allows us to reach out to you guys individually and just say, hey, we see, we had an incident happen near your house. We're looking for video in this time frame. Do you have anything that you wish to share? And then if you do, then we can even send you a link to download that. So we wouldn't even never have to visit your house. So that's a great tool that we have now. It's called the camera registry. Again, we'll post that on our Facebook page tonight.
So you use that in court against somebody too, if they had a trial or something? Would that person at that home or that camera, you just take to trial? Or what's up with that?
Well, if it was given to us, right, we'd have to, I would say, eventually we're gonna have to show its origin.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Eventually gonna have to show its origin and where we got it from. But again, that's come back to people, wanting to take ownership in their community and wanting to get rid of it. Because if, people that see something have to ultimately say something. Unfortunately, we're not going to be, again, there's times that we don't need any witnesses or any help in these cases, right? Those are few and far between.
Right.
Any case that we deal with that is just solved because, we stumble upon it. Right? 90% of our cases that we solve are because of, somebody said something. Somebody helped us out. And we can't be everywhere, every minute, every moment, so, a lot of these cases, that we deal with is because somebody saw something and they said something, and that's, they say the honorable thing to do, but we understand there's a flip side to that as well, and it does make it tough. You talked about the relationships, wholeheartedly agree, right? So I spent several years out at the high school, as an SRO, and, that's traditionally that's what SRO policing is about, is creating relationships with individuals in the schools, right, and breaking down some of those barriers so we can have better conversations and more comfortable conversations and ultimately give the answers that
You
everybody
remember
wants.
those days, Mike, right?
Yeah, I'm one of them. 67 now, 19, I'm good.
So before I open it up to organizations to speak, we do have families that were impacted by gun violence. So I would like to allow them to speak first before I allow. So if you would like to say something, Calvin, Janice, I will allow you to do that now. Because they're doing some things differently, so I need you to kind of speak to why you're doing the things differently.
Yeah, we come back here, like we have a whole place in Texas. When we came, I might cry. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
Today is the day that today is the day Keisha got killed. But
I didn't even know that.
We have a whole house in Texas, but we come and we choose to come back to the same community that damaged our family to help with kids, but we're not getting recognition for it, and it's not cool. I understand that I had to do what I had to do to fight you guys to get justice for my daughter so we can rest, but we still not resting. And we come back here to get these kids because the teenagers is gone. So we come back here and we started a bowling league for the ages 5 to 10 years old to try to capture the kids that's small, to keep them with us, to go to middle school, high school, maybe college. I understand what we had to do, what I had to do. But I just want all of us to get along and everybody to stop hating me. Because if it was y'all child, what would y'all do?
Yeah. Yeah.
We just come back to the community to help. And we want to be recognized like everybody else. We want to be invited to community things, not left out. We working on getting grants, but we don't even have the funding. I get on my semi truck and go out there and get the money to make sure those kids have bowling money, shirts. We'll feed them after, we'll pay for the rental for their shoes, their bowl 2 games. We'll feed them before they go home, because we don't know their home life. We don't know if they got something to eat in their refrigerator. So me and my wife, we do that out of our own pocket. Even if y'all can't give us no funding and stuff, just, as y'all know, just tell me where to go. Lead me that way, and trust me, at nighttime I don't sleep. So I get on this phone, get on the computer, and I research to see what I need to do. I just want to not be looked at as an enemy in this community no more. And I'm doing stuff with these kids to make sure they have a safe place and safe environment. So no other parent feel like this. Because a parent is not supposed to bury their child. A child is supposed to bury their parent. I just want to be left alone, us get along, let me help in this community. I'm trying to help y'all save these kids. That's it.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
So, with that being said, yes.
I just want people to know that if you witness a child getting murdered, it's not snitching.
Right.
You need to come forward and help, because the 7 years that we had to wait for justice could have been solved that night. If somebody would have just came forward.
That's right.
And you have to stop thinking about it as snitching. Snitching is if me and you commit a crime and I get caught, then I tell on you. But if you witness somebody being murdered, that's not snitching, that's doing the right thing.
Right.
And we all should strive
Right.
to do the right thing at all times. Thank you.
So, with that being said, I'm gonna open up the floor, but it's a lot of people in here, so I wanna make sure that, the dialogue and ask the questions, whatever we need to do. This is a dialogue, it's not us dictating, and it's us taking notes and figuring out what our next steps are gonna be as well. Yes?
Yeah, this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. This gun violence is not new. I am the guy that moved in right next door to the house where on March 28, 2004, among other events that morning, is where Sergeant Mark Zumek got shot. I'm not going to go into much detail about that. I respect Chief Simmons. I go under a couple ordinances. It's about discharging your firearms inside the city limits. This is under section 78-2, discharging firearms. Subsection A, no person shall discharge any air gun, rifle, shotgun, revolver, pistol, or other firearm in the city. So don't give your kids a BB gun for Christmas. He won't shoot her out, he'll get in trouble. Subsection B, this section does not extend to cases which firearms are used in self-defense or in the discharge of the official duty of, or when lawfully authorized. In subsection C, whoever violates this provision of this section shall be punished by a minimum fine as set forth in section 50-403. Now get a load of this one, people. This is under section 5403. The fine for discharging a firearm required by section 78-2 shall be a minimum of a measly $100. I mean, come on. Somebody gonna fire a gun, I'm not gonna report for only a $100 fine. It's not. Why don't you put add a zero on it, add another zero onto that and a big crooked number on the front? You need to amend that ordinance. I've mentioned that a couple of times to you.
Yes, you have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. I see members from the NAACP.
Yeah. Wes Scully,
I'm sorry.
LaPorte
I'll
County,
get you next.
NAACP, Brian Thomas, our Vice President. In the last year or two, we've got a lot of phone calls to our organization from young men locked up for gun violence for several different reasons and cases. We made it perfectly clear. If you running around with a gun, shooting at each other, like you've lost your mind, want to be a gang, like when you were in Chicago somewhere, in Michigan City, lose my number, because we're not going to help you. You're shooting each other, we're not going to help you. And I love what she said about snitching. You don't even know the definition of snitching. Snitching is not when you witness a young lady, a young, beautiful lady who got a whole life ahead of her, and because you want to be a thug and you take her life like you gave it to her, you know, that's not snitching. That's stepping up in our neighborhood. If we're going to be a village and we're going to raise our children, then we all got to stick together and we got to work together. Now, me and Brian did a crime, like she said, and I got busted, and he told on me that's snitching. And I was told by a high-ranked police officer that Michigan City is full of snitches. All right? Full of snitchers. So I like what Chief Campbell did. We might have to do that again. When he had that citywide meeting at the church, it was packed. And a lot of the people that was in that meeting had kids that had been involved in gun violence. We cannot keep quiet. This is going on all over this country. Michigan City is not a virgin to this. This is everywhere. And with that silly law they passed that you don't even need a license anymore, everybody and their mama got a gun. So it's a tremendous, a plethora of stuff that we got to deal with. A lot of it is poverty. These young black boys don't have a chance when they get out of high school to get good jobs. I mean, just look at the double track. You know, I don't see one African American or either a brown person on that job. It's opportunities that they're not like, and then you put them outside of opportunity and you expect them to act civil. Well, it's not. They're not. They're not going to church. They're not doing a lot of things. But I'm very, very animated about what's going on. I see a tremendous amount of self-hate, a tremendous amount of tearing down. But at the end of the day, along with the police department and the powers to be, and the neighborhoods, and those that are in these organizations, we got to come together with a plan to pull together and try to get the ones that's involved in those meetings. You can preach to the choir, but we need the ones that's in these gangs. I know it's 2 gangs right now. I got introduced to them. I'm helping a boy right now who went to jail and got beat up while he was in jail. He received no help. He didn't do anything. It wasn't about guns, but I know he's involved with that. So the bottom line, I said all that to say this. We have a lot of work to do all over this country, in particular Michigan City, because this is where we live. And we got to get together and got to do something.
Let me ask a question, because one of the things is I don't want to meet. So when I say that, are you suggesting that we start some working groups? Because we've done this multiple times, and it's never the ones that are involved or the parents that have the kids involved that are at the meeting.
Exactly.
So with that being said,
They friends.
say that again.
That's because those parents are friends with their kids and they know what they're doing and they condone what they do.
Yeah.
And then they'll be mad at us, be like, don't say nothing about your family, but in turn say something to help my family. You see what I'm saying? Right. That don't make no sense.
Yeah.
So you condoning what your kids is out there doing, running around shooting at people, but then when somebody shoot back at them, then they want to call the police.
Right. Well, we were introduced about the flock system at that citywide meeting that time, that it was on its way, which was viable information, okay? we got awakened to that. And also our organization and Chief Faulkner and a couple of other organizations, we've had a few meetings where we've come together. We put some stuff in place right now. But just to touch home, and to be involved, these young men that's reaching out, once they get themselves in a position where they cannot get out of jail and they're stuck, and they're crying. I just want them to know, you know, if it's not a civil matter, all right, or racism, or someone getting fired off their job for whatever reason that meet with a civil situation or a systemic racist situation, that's the field we deal in. We don't deal in gun violence. We can't help you get out of jail if you go and shoot this gang member over here. And we got 2 gang members. We need to identify them.
Yeah.
All right? We need to identify who they are. And if you know the players, we need to sit down, bring them down, sit down, shut the door, and let's deal with it. Let's deal with it. We can be invited in that meeting, and because something's got to be done. Michigan City, really? 29,000 people. How many deaths this year? 17, you said?
No, over 3 years.
Over 3 years, 17? Way too many. 1 is too many.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I know you had very.
Okay, first off, I thought there'd be a sound system in here. I have not heard or understood anything here because I left my hearing aids at home.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. So anything that was discussed, I may be contradicted, I may be, but, okay, my argument is, right across the lake is the biggest precedence for crime. The crime in Chicago. You got a 13-year-old boy running down the alley after committing a crime, shooting at the police. He runs out of ammunition, they shoot him. His family gets $800,000 reward. What does that tell these criminals? There's several times these criminals get caught because of technicalities. The police did not handle them with kid gloves. They get away scot-free, and they get money back for it. That's ridiculous. You commit a crime, you get caught at it because the police manhandled you to get you because you're fighting them back. You get away with the crime. That's totally ridiculous. Another thing they have going there. Somebody comes in, breaks into your house, and steals a firearm from you. Robs you on the street. They take it over to Chicago and they give them $100. They reward them for a crime. No questions asked. You bring in a firearm that you got illegally and we'll give you $100. That's totally asinine, and that word spreads and it gets around. You commit a crime, you get punished for it, not rewarded for it. And because you use a gun, get punished for that. But no, they give them leniency, they let them go. That sets a precedence. I had 2 incidences at my house. First off, I had a friend, she's a black girl, and she is not very pretty. But I made some stuff for her. She came over to pick it up. I noticed that her tires were flat. I mean, she was just out riding on the rims. So I got out my air compressor, I'm filling up the tires. All of a sudden, this car comes racing in, runs up that driveway, parks right behind that car, and these 2 black men get out of that car and start running towards me. Now, why I said first description, she walked out from around that car, they looked at her, and they actually start chuckling, looking, and then they come up with some excuse that they were looking for some street. And then they got back in the car. From then on, I had a weapon close by my doors, okay? Second instance, I got out of my house and I had to walk over to the driveway. I was going to cut the grass, so I was walking to my garage. All of a sudden I heard a noise, and like I said, I'm hard of hearing, so I didn't hear him coming. I felt something on my pants. I turned around and there's a pickup truck. Just about running me over. And I pointed, get out of here. I don't want to talk to them, get out of here. So they backed up. I turned around and started walking. Next thing I hear, the door slams in the car, and the guy's running down the alley. Like I says, from then on, I had something convenient. I brought that out. I don't know what he was gonna do. But the man almost runs me over, and then next thing he gets out of the truck and he comes running down at me. And then he tells me he's calling the police on me.
Right. So let me say this. So we're talking about gun violence. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me okay?
Pardon?
Did you hear her?
No, I really
Okay.
don't, I'm sorry.
Just move on.
Okay.
All files.
All right, no problem. We're gonna move on. Yes, Miss Williams, if you come up so we can hear you.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Pastor Kimberly Williams. I don't know why I have to come up, but I'll come up.
Yes.
I'm Pastor Kimberly Williams. And one of the things that we have been doing, we met at the police station with the chief and the officers, and they've been asking for some of the community leaders to come together and come up with some solution. I think that's a great idea, what you all are doing with the 10 years, up to 10-year-olds. I work at the Michigan City area schools with the 16 to 18, sometimes 19-year-olds. And one of the biggest things they say is, we have nothing to do.
That's it.
So we do know that midnight basketball, it did work.
It did.
It may not have to be midnight, but I have been talking with some gentlemen. One of them is our future councilman back there, and a couple other gentlemen to get this off the ground. We can keep talking about it, but hopefully we want to get this off the ground within the next few weeks.
Make sure Brian, because he ran it. Brian ran the thing.
Okay.
Yes, he ran it for
Oh,
us.
anybody, I don't care. Let's get it off the ground, okay? There's going to be rules, but we want to make sure that there's some structure to it, some rules. I'm even thinking about going a little further. There's a young man who's in gaming, have a gaming area there, having employment vendors there. Also mentors. Have to have some mentors. Sometimes these young men just need to talk and they need to vent. And so just to have it like a whole entire program. But we need to get them off the streets and give them something to do. And then as we're talking about the 16 to 24-year-old, if you're talking about the 10-year-olds, there's other things in that gap between the 10 and the 16-year-old, another program that can be going on. But always have something for them to do. And then if they're still doing what they're doing, then now we can take that. No, you can't say there's nothing to do. You can't say that we're not offering you, giving you opportunity to do something. And so that's what we're working on. Hopefully within the next week or two, we are going to have a plan together. Don't know where we're gonna have it yet, but we're gonna have a plan together so we can get this started. Yes.
Question, please. Has the school system stepped forward and made any, indicated they will make some gymnasiums available?
I haven't asked them, but I can ask them.
They got the facilities.
Okay. Okay.
And the YMCA has got ample, a lot of things.
YMCA is not the best place.
Yeah.
They jacked up the price for the kids.
Kim, you talking about midnight
$5 to
basketball?
$8.
Are you talking about bringing back midnight basketball?
Yes.
Or any kind of
I was
league.
gonna say, it doesn't have to be midnight, but any kind of league. Just a league to just get them active and get them, give them something to do.
But see, I guess one of the things that I always question, that's why I like that you said gaming and some other things, because everybody are not ballers. Everybody doesn't play basketball, and we tend to always focus on basketball. And what about the young ladies? What about, and they're having some of the same issues that the young men are having, and even with truancy and being kicked out of school. So I like the holistic thing, but it has to be fun. It has to have music. I mean, there's so many things that have to be involved. And I guess my question to community members, for the ones that are already that point whatever percent that are doing all the stuff, what do we do about them right now? do we as a council, try to sit down, you know, behind closed doors with the mayor, with the justice system, to talk to them about stop letting them out on our streets? I mean, what
A lot
do
of
you
them
see?
coming from out of town.
These are kids that are local. Yes, Tina.
Tina, I just have a question. Do we have curfew in Michigan City? By any means?
10 o'clock.
For what age?
15, right, and, well, 17 and younger.
It's 10 o'clock?
10
Is
o'clock.
it
Yeah.
enforced?
What's that?
Is it enforced?
Not
Now
like it used to be.
You're running around past 10 o'clock in Michigan City, you're up to nothing but trouble. I don't care.
What's the consequences for it?
We took them to
A
college.
ticket.
A ticket,
No, no, you want me, it's 9 p.m.
Chief, what's the consequences for
curfew violation.
curfew violation?
At
Well,
10
it's-
o'clock, and they none but bars.
I mean, it would be a city ordinance, but, I mean, there's, yeah, two different, you know, consequences, right? So the state law consequence would be for curfew, that's a status offense, so they're finding alternatives, you know, so they're not necessarily punitive, they're more, you know, rehabilitative, you know, and alternatives to, you know, punishment essentially.
Yeah.
You know, in the state, going through the juvenile services center. Citywide, I don't know what the curfew fine is, you know, that we would issue a ticket for, but yeah, it's minimal, like you said earlier, Tommy, the $100 fine for shots fired, if I had to guess, it's probably the same amount.
Yeah, I know, but you know, just, and I'm not necessarily looking at fining some 17-year-old or 18-year-old that's walking down the street,
Yeah, that's it.
you know, at 10, 15 in the evening. No. But maybe the police officer could just, you know, pull over and say, hey, you know, how you guys doing? Are you guys on your way home? Because you're out after curfew.
Right.
And appreciate if you guys make your way towards your residence. And just start, and that aspect right now, we don't have to start ticketing somebody for a $100 ticket, because number one, who's gonna go after him to try to get the money? And the guy's probably gonna rip it up before he gets home anyway, and not, you know, not worry about it. So I think if the police would at least reach out and say, hey, you know, young teenagers, you gotta get home, it's 10:15, it's 10:30, and it's 11 o'clock, and it's midnight, and you certainly should be home now. And I'll tell you what, get in the back of the car and I'll give you a ride home if you want to ride home, because I'm gonna get you
Pulling over
there.
in somebody's neighborhood, tell them kids about the curfew, all them kids gonna start running.
Yeah. But we haven't talked about curfew.
I'm just sort of suggestion.
Yeah, but we haven't heard about a curfew. There hasn't been a curfew
I
that we
think
talked
that's a
about
great idea.
in years. I will say that I don't, one thing I'm not really supportive of, that I find is that when we find youth, just like when they get in trouble and they got probation, it costs the parent all this money. You know, all this stuff, you know, so that's a hardship already when your
But on the
child.
same note too, they have to be, you know, they have to be parents and not their friends.
Yes,
And some
That
people want
part.
to be their friends, and now you have to be accountable for your kids' actions
that's true
as
too.
well, too.
They drink what they
Right.
need. I see it all the time.
So
Yeah.
part of it, I agree, yeah, you create
Yeah.
a hardship, but on the same note, if their kid was where they were supposed to be, they wouldn't have created a hardship.
There's Tracy,
One of
Councilwoman.
the things, what Chief Worker was mentioning, I was a certified store detective for one of the large stores here in Michigan City for 5 years. And during that time, what I observed a lot was, there's a lot of young children that comes into these stores and they go straight to the air guns, the pellet guns, and they steal them. They steal them. But my thing is, we got to start at home. Because first of all, why are you allowing your child, and I'm talking, I've seen from 8-year-olds and up. There was an 8-year-old that came into the store, went back there, stole a gun. We called MCPD to come in. We made our report. The officer came. By the grace of God, this child is alive today because we got a follow-up phone call when they couldn't get a hold to any parent or an adult. So they took the child and then contacted the juvenile center. But come to find out, when they got to the police station, that little boy had a gun on him that he stole from the store. Now, had that officer seen that and they were in that squad, and not knowing if it was real or not, that could have played out entirely different. But we saw a lot of young children that comes into the store, not because they're going to the movies. It was football season, they ride their bikes to the stores, they ride their bikes coming in from closer neighborhoods, and they go back to the gun aisles, and they steal them. But the question is, where's the parents? Where are the parents? I had a personal incident that happened in my residence. Why are 8 to 12-year-olds out at night, 7 o'clock, quarter to 8 p.m., just because they have a cell phone, roaming the alleys, running up to people's houses, trying to come in? Where are the parents? A cell phone may save you to call for 911, but that's not a safety for a child to be out in the streets by themselves. That's not a parent. A phone is not a parent. So it's a 50-50 thing. And the question is, where do we go? Because really that structure starts at home. But as is being said, if the parents are up shaking it, drinking, and doing the same thing with their kids, then that's why we're getting a lot of the things that we're getting.
I know we have some people here from Elston Grove, and we've heard some of your concerns. Anybody have anything they want to share, or anything, or any comments, or? Yeah, we got Eastport and Elston Grove, and we got West Side Business. Yes, Martha.
Well, I don't live in Elston Grove, but I belong to the association, and I know that the majority of the people that come to the events are all for these Flock and Raven systems. I see so much stuff on Nextdoor about how they're putting down these systems. They don't like the loss of their privacy. But let me tell you, they lived in these neighborhoods, and I mean, in Elston Grove, there's been more killings and shootings. I mean, it's just, you know, and people are living there. This is where they live, and they don't deserve it. So we need to find a better way. And I like these systems. I mean, I think they're great. And if my son got caught by one of those, I'd be happy. You know, I would, because, you know, parents can't always see everything either. But I mean, I think as parents, we should want our children to be doing the right thing. But
Thank you. Anybody else before I move on? Yes.
Just quickie, this is a meeting room. I'm sorry I left my hearing aids in the truck. How come they don't have a sound system here? This is a meeting room. They should have a sound system so you can hear. I'm sorry, this is a good meeting, but I can't participate because I'm not here.
Yeah.
You know,
Typically,
if this continues, could you please ask them to get the sound system working for it? Thank you.
Yes,
Question. Someone mentioned a portal, if you have like a Ring camera or something. Are there any statistics on how effective those systems have been in solving your cases?
Not yet, no, we just, the camera portal it just opened here in the last 2 weeks. We started advertising for it. Again, it's not really, we haven't used it in any particular cases yet. Again, it does allow us the opportunity to like crowdsource as well, so we can create QR codes and just put it on like our news releases. And you could, you know, we could say, hey, if you have any video, use this QR code to upload it. You know, so it has those capabilities to use it like that. So we'll be able to I don't want to say track it, but you know, it's more of who can we reach out to for assistance.
Second part, the Flock cameras.
Yeah.
Are they owned by the city? If it's positioned in certain areas, high crime areas, is that how they?
Yeah, so they're leased, right, through the city, so they maintain, or Flock essentially maintains the unit, right? So if something goes wrong, it can they'll come out and service it and get it up and running. When we sat down with Flock, obviously, you know, essentially, you know, when you want to protect your home, you set up a fence right around your yard or whatnot, right? There's a fence around the city, right? So we can see who's coming and going, and then we used a lot of the data, calls for service, shots fired. those types of calls for service to start narrowing down certain areas that needed those additional cameras.
Right. Yes, Joseph?
You mentioned earlier y'all arrested 10, I think in the month of July, maybe even more. Out of those number of people that's been arrested, how many have been released?
Honestly, I don't have that data today. You know, probably be something that we could follow up with. And just, again, unfortunately, like Councilwoman Nelson Deitch said, that when you start searching the court database, it's more of an individualized search. So it would be nice if you could just go in and search by offense. And if we could search by gun offenses, and then you could get essentially a list of people who committed those offenses.
Why don't we have?
But then we'd have to go in and see individually who was, you know, most of those charges that day were level 5 felonies and above, which is a substantial bond, I know that. Again, some of those range from criminal activity, altering firearms, possession of machine guns, you know, and stuff like that, so.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, Brian. Yeah, we do, but that's the issue. Why are they out? Why are they getting out so quickly?
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, we don't set those, you know, we don't set those bonds. We don't set that, you know, everybody has the right, you know, to post bond. And when they do, there's terms of that bond that they have to follow. And
yeah. Councilman Dabney.
Living in the Eastport neighborhood for 51 years, about 54 years on this earth. Then what it has turned to over there here is the biggest problem. That people are afraid to say something. When something happens, people are afraid. They're afraid that if they give you their camera data, that it's going to come back to them. They want to say something. When they're out there, there's 20 people out there in the middle of the daytime that somebody shoots. Now, there's a lot of people that'll be in those crowds that would want to say something, but they're afraid that their name's going to come out, that they said something. And this is what the street tell me.
Yeah.
And when I see the kids in the street, a lot of them will say they're just afraid to say something. Even the older people that live in my neighborhood, they're afraid to say something. They're afraid of retaliation. Somebody gonna ride by, shoot up in their houses. And this is, if we can finally solve something like that, then I think you'll see a turn in the attitudes of the people that will be willing to say something. But that's one of the biggest problems, biggest barriers, hurdles that we have.
Just to add a little bit to that, obviously we talked a little bit about the camera registry, you know, and I think there's an opportunity there. Have we seen the back end of it when we go to court with it and how that stuff pans out? We don't know, right? It may require somebody to testify. And maybe at that time and date, somebody doesn't.
That's not good. I'm gonna tell you, man.
I agree, but it does.
Look, what I'm trying to say is, you use them cameras and stuff. Them people got to be physically there in court.
Not necessarily, because you didn't see what happened. The police saw it. Right. They looked at your camera. You don't even have to be at home.
Right. Yeah, but you got to, when the trial comes.
You're not going to testify if you didn't see it.
Yeah. But again, there's an opportunity.
I think there's still a lot going on in that realm.
There's an opportunity there to at least discreetly do it until that point.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been doing this for 18 years here in Michigan City, and how many times I've been to court? Not very many.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this stuff is settled, right? As long as, if the evidence is there,
right,
we don't go to court a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because there's a strong case against someone.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have that strong case to present, you know, to the prosecutor's office, to present to the judge, to present to the defense attorneys, they go, we're going to take a deal because you're guilty.
Right, and that's,
you know what I'm saying?
You need to bring back the guardian angels or something.
Yeah, I mean, so there's an opportunity for us to present cases.
Really like the guardian angels or something. You need a group of real strong people who will really be hitting.
Well, that's neighborhood people. You gotta get, that's why you need
the neighborhood people.
You need these neighborhood groups to be stronger because they're gonna do it.
How do you do that? You know what I mean? I don't know.
I have some ideas.
Okay.
Don, and then I think, gentlemen, you wanted to say something back there? I thought you had your hand up. Okay. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Backing up a little bit, I like very much what the Reverend was saying about working with the community. One thing that we need to address when you bring up issues of what are these kids doing running around so late at night. I'm a retired clinical social worker, and somehow we need to track how many of these kids that are running around on their own are from a single family, a single parent family, and also from families where the parents or the single parent is working maybe 2 or 3 part-time jobs.
That's
so
right.
There's really no supervision there. I think having a community program also needs to address getting the word out there to families that want to ask for help, that want to ask for backup because they're not at home as much as they would prefer to be.
Mm-hmm. I agree, because I come from one of those families that nobody was at home and we weren't out doing that. But I can say that some of my siblings got in trouble here and there, and it wasn't because our parents weren't teaching us right from wrong. So I don't want to villainize all parents either, because some want what's best for their kids, and their kids are still bad. I'm just saying, I've had a parent say, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. A lot of those.
And they said, I don't know what to do. I need help. What do I do? And at some point, peer pressure is a big. So that's what I'm saying. I know we need to talk to Judge Alavisos with the Juvenile Justice Center and Dion, because I know for a long time that place stays pretty empty. We've tried to do all these other alternative things, and if it's the same kids, they need to stay there.
Yeah, exactly.
There's many days there might be 2 or 3 kids in that whole facility. And if all these people are under 18 running around here, why aren't they in there? Especially if it's gun related.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a holistic thing that we'll have to sit down and think about. I know you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, getting back to this prosecutors, not the prosecutor, but the judges issue. And I've heard it from law enforcement, both from the city side and from the county side, that when individuals are arrested for these crimes, they are let go within a number of days at a very low penalty. They're right back out on the streets doing what they're doing. This resolution that you're talking about, sending it to the prosecutors, or not the prosecutors, but the judges, telling them what we think. And if we need to sit down and have a meeting with the judges and the prosecutors and the prosecutor's office, then we need to do that as a city council, to tell them exactly how we feel and what we hear and what our community, the end result of what they're doing. They don't live in the neighborhoods. Some of them don't even live in Michigan City, but by their rules and judgments that they're making, they're actually being detrimental to Michigan City. Instead of dealing with the issues, they're just passing it back to the neighborhoods, and this is the end result. So we're going to continue with this resolution, and if we have to have a meeting with the prosecutor's office and the judges, then we'll sit down with them one by one and talk to them.
Yes, Tracy.
And if I can add to that, you would probably want to speak with the prosecutor first, because if you think about a case, you go from law enforcement. Once they build the case, then it goes to the prosecutor's office and to the DPA. And if that's a strong case, then it goes to the judges.
Yeah.
But the bonds, who sets the bonds and the bails? The bail, all that?
The
judges do, before we even get to the prosecutor.
Yes.
See, and that's where we're struggling, is that we're hearing, and I got a message, and it says word for word from some former officers and retirees that are saying some of these ridiculous things. They're saying that it's OR bonds and different things. That's a judge thing, I think.
That bond is judge.
Okay,
If
so
you're looking at the bonding issues, yes. those
Ms.
are
Van Buren,
judge.
I see you back there.
Yeah, I'm from the west side, and I have a business on the west side, been there for right at 30 years. Back in February, most of you all know my place got shot up.
which is the daycare facility, at 10 a.m. broad daylight. Matter of fact, I had just walked off of my car and walked in the daycare into my office with the Infinity man there. By the time I got upstairs, one of the girls hollered on the floor, Miss April, they shoot. Infinity guy and we jumped from the top step to the bottom step trying to shield the kids. And afterwards, they wasn't shooting at me. I don't live that kind of life, none of my boys. I have 2 adopted boys. And I raised all my kids on the west side. But I make a long story short, the gentleman next door, and I would call him a gentleman because he's doing grown folk stuff, but he's a child. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's what they would shoot at. But these was kids. It was 6 of them. And on the video camera, I'm so glad for the video camera.
Yep.
I have a video camera in both my locations, front and back, all around the facility. The girl on the end had the video camera, the man across the street had the video camera. They was in front of the lady's house on the corner getting ready. You could see them getting ready. The 2 girls and 4 guys getting ready with the ammunition. They didn't move fast enough for the girl, so she got out the car, she wanted to walk down. You see what I'm saying? She wanted to walk down, so they decided, oh, I'm gonna get in the car. So when they come by, they just come by swinging and shooting, swinging and shooting.
Wow.
Shot up my vehicle
Yep.
and then my bus vehicle.
Yep.
The vehicle that I have repaired so far, that's $2,000 out of my pocket. I had to pay. My other vehicle has not been repaired just yet. Don't even know if it's beyond repair. That's the big bus. Shot the windows out, shot the front of it up.
Yep.
But I thank God they didn't get my kids.
Yep.
I had to close up for about a month because I was just wet, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. I never seen nothing like it. The little gentleman next door, when we talk about a parent's accountability, she hid that child out in that house for about a whole month.
Yeah.
I would get in the window when I see him, I call him, I say, he there, he there, he outside, he here. Nobody would come. Every time I would see him. So some kind of way, finally, they got it. Carried him to JDC, right back out. I'd be so scared to go to work. I'd be so scared to leave there. It's just terrible. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible over there where I am. I never had a problem. Never had a problem. Because this particular moved in there. They wasn't shooting at me, they shooting at him. You see? So I understand. I got my paperwork for my first vehicle, for repair, working on my second vehicle. I went to the police department. I didn't ask for no information of these here minors. You see what I'm saying? So they're not gonna give me any anyway. But I want all of my money back. Somebody gonna be accountable for that. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I want it back.
That should be
But-
included in the restitution. Yes.
Yeah,
there's a-
but that's what I was told, but I want to make sure I get mine back.
Right.
But then again, I'm scared because I'm still there and they know Miss Van Buren is pushing this,
Yep.
and it makes me scared of my business. I got to figure out to close or relocate.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And another thing, I disagree with Sister William in regards to the gym here in Michigan City. If there's no security there should be no gym for the kid.
Yep.
My 13-year-old got slapped, so I had to take him to medical by a grown individual there. And I pressed charges on him, still waiting to see what's gonna come out of that. My child was in no shoes, just his gym pants. It was in February, so you know what kind of weather we have in February. A Caucasian picked him up on Franklin, brought him back to the gym. Brought him back, he's naked, he's shaking, he's scared. You see, and we had to take him for medical treatment. She slapped him so hard, he left his fingerprints in his face. If we don't have security there in that gym, I'm not going with it.
Well, we should never do it without security.
Yeah.
That's what they say. And I pay my membership. I pay my membership. The police came out and took the report. We got the report, true enough, but it didn't go nowhere from that end until I went down and started pushing. You see, because you're a grown man, you come to me about my son.
Right.
You come to me about my son. And you talk to your daughter, stay away from my son. You see what I'm saying? It's a two-way street. See?
Yeah.
So I disagree with that until we get some sound security over there. I pay membership for him to go there. He should be protected at all times. And no cameras in the building at all.
Well, it would be at the YMC anyway, and then this program would definitely have security there because we're working with the officers. So we're not gonna dare have this thing without security. So.
And let me add about the west side, because Don and I met with a resident about some shootings, not far from you, that are happening. And it's the same, everybody knows who they are.
Right, right.
You know, and, you know, as we were riding through the neighborhood yesterday, you know, a lot of these are homeowners and they're just spots, hot spots. And we could see all the hot spots everywhere we went.
Yeah.
We saw all the hot spots. And so I know the police know the hot spots, because I mean, it was easy for us to detect them. And then we talked about it. It's like, yeah, there was a couple shootings there. There was a couple shootings, you know. So again, I think we were talking about these neighborhood associations. We have to give if we're going to have the associations, we have to figure out a way to provide them some resources to help with some of this deterrence too. Because as long as we're walking, like I saw some ministers today walking with the social worker downtown today. If we have this wellness walk, the wellness walks have to happen in those neighborhoods where they have the most poverty, the most health related issues, the most health this, the most this. So the walk should be happening on the west side and on the east side. You know, we wrote a grant that we didn't get from the Indiana Department of Health, but that's what should be happening. The grant that we wrote was specifically for those those census tracts that have the biggest needs. So we can do everything downtown, we can do all this stuff until we're walking those neighborhoods. People are less likely if it's a lot of people out doing things, being active. And I think the walks need to happen on the east and the west sides. And I think that's something we should think about, you know. And those should be the wellness walks, and get Franciscan to participate over there and do the bowling, get some more kids involved and help find money and donate and support, you know, programs like that. Yes, Calvin.
Angie and Fulcrum, y'all don't like how those schools and like out of town, like Gary in Chicago, y'all can't get those like metal detectors that for the kids, like they go to school, y'all don't have that in their budget, because you go to the high school games and they have all them kids in there with guns, with them Pooh Shiesty masks on up there in the stands. That needs to be stopped, because there be tons of guns up there in them stands.
Not disagreeing with
If you can get those, if it's in your budget, put those at the door. Once they see those, they not gonna come in there. Y'all gonna see a lot of turnarounds.
Right.
Because it's gonna
be that there.
It's gonna do it. They got them in them schools in Gary and Chicago, and we starting to get bad for them in there too.
Do that.
What's that?
Yeah, schools might well be able to look at the schools, so you got a train track over here.
And then stop them from wearing those masks while they in them stands, because they're in there and they with them guns.
Okay. I'll bring that up. I'll send that though as just something to the school system. Yes.
I got some. Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. We have a gang and a drug problem in Michigan City. You can tell by their intelligence from the graffiti. We do have a graffiti ordinance on the books. Michigan City has been declared a graffiti-free city. That went on the books about 20 years ago. When Mayor Chuck Oberle first took office, that's something he really pushed for. I think that's a really great thing. I just took a picture of this on one of the industrial buildings over on Huron Street. There the graffiti, you can tell that the gangs are the Bloods, the Crips, and the Gangster Disciples. That's Those are the ones that are in the city.
In this little one-horse town, you saying that?
Yep.
Man, I'm about to come back out on these streets, okay? I'm about to quiet it down now.
No.
Police ain't doing it, everybody else doing it, I mean, everybody get together, we go.
But we know that there's some gang issues, but and again, I used to hear people say things like, "Oh, they're coming from Chicago." A lot of these
Danger disciples from the south side of Chicago.
let me say this: we're saying a lot of these kids. A lot of these kids are family members.
Right.
Some of our family members.
Right.
I mean, for sure, some of our family members. So it's not like it's only Chicago influence. These are some of our own family members that are participating in some of this. Some of us in this room, we know. And, young man got shot. I remember as a kid being at my house all the time. And so it's that mentality. It's different from, things have changed with social media. A lot of stuff starts on social media. We still got, gaming, we got all this reality TV. They deal with more stressors than we've ever dealt with. I don't recall, it was hard to see curse words on TV. Now you got it on radio, you got it on everything. It's like a lifestyle.
Talk about that music.
They make it a lifestyle. And it's an unhealthy lifestyle because death is final. And I feel like a lot of kids are not seeing death as being final. I ask my daughter, anytime there's a shooting or anything, I can call my daughter where she's at in Bloomington and she can tell me the 411. They get on social media and you can cycle it and you know what's going on. Well, such and such said this, and then they'll send me a video. I can see the video of somebody running to the car shooting. I mean, what do we do with that? I mean, I don't know what we do with that. And I think that is something, that's why research, this is a lot of information. I know they gave us some, we'll make it available. But there is so much information and so many pilots that have been done that I think at this time we need to figure out how to put some money up to figure out all these pilots that have been done. We might just have to try it. Sometimes you just have to try it and let it fail. And then try something else and try something else. Because right now all we're doing is talking about stuff over and over again. And so that's why, we'll go through all this stuff and we'll make it available in the clerk's office. But then we're going to need bodies to help implement stuff, right? And so it's good that all these people have shown up because it sounds like we know we have an issue, but when we need people to show up, if we're going to have weekly walks, we can't have 2 or 3 people. We have to have 50 people, right? Because because they're shooting in the daytime now.
Yeah.
Before it used to be just at night. Now we're seeing stuff in broad daylight, and everybody's like, "Well, I'm gonna get out, so it ain't gonna matter because I'm gonna get out in a few days." So yes,
I
Tom.
just want to mention also about the graffiti. Defacing school property is a Class D felony in the state of Indiana. I just wanted to mention that.
Sure don't allow it.
I see Councilman Paul. You got anything? Councilman Paul, you got anything?
The only thing I can say is this, is that, I live by St. Stan's Church. And this problem is all over it's all over. And I would just think that my only suggestion right now is that, and I'm not criticizing the police department, I think they're doing a good job. And that I think that our technology that we got into is helping them. I would hope that they would take my suggestion and have their officers stop in the neighborhoods when they see somebody outside the house and say, "Hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm patrolling your district, here's my card." That's the first step, to get to know your neighbors and create that some form of trust in that. I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, in that neighborhood, we had a person shot in the neck a couple years ago, killed, all right, over drugs. So it's not just in your neighborhoods, all right? And 4th of July weekend, I had a police officer knocking at my door, wanting to have entrance to my backyard, because they had supposedly a bunch of people cut their bracelets off, okay, that weekend. And they were out running wild, like a bunch of them. Well, I'm just saying, it's like, we got to come together as a group, as a community, and that, I think that when the police need help, and I understand your position on telling on somebody, but it's like this. I've been living in that neighborhood since I was a child.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna tell somebody something. I'm not afraid. You know, as a community, when these thugs know that we're not afraid anymore, they're gonna have second thoughts about doing things.
I agree with that.
And that we have to come together and say, hey, you know what? I saw it, I'm telling you. I don't have a problem going to court and testifying against somebody. I think that's my civic duty, and also as a member of the community, to just to do that for justice.
Yes, sir. And then we'll wrap up.
As a social worker and having been involved with a community organization in Chicago, the first rule of thumb with community organization is connect, connect, connect. And the connection starts tonight in regard to disseminating the fact that this meeting happened tonight, and that we're looking at making plans, and we're interested in hearing from people. And same thing too with the community associations. Having a coalition where they're not isolated communities, but all of the different communities that do have something like that have a central place where they can share information and also get information. And I think the issue is, how much are we going to be getting out there from this point on, making connections and communicating our concerns and the efforts we're making.
Yeah, and I think this will be the first of many. And as we close, I do want, do you have anything? And then I'm gonna ask the mayor if he has anything. You guys have anything else you want to share?
No, I just think that not only do we need to pitch to the judges, but we need more community involvement, and we need to work at bridging the gap between the police department, the community, council people, mayor's office, in a collaborative effort, and just not talk it, but actually do it.
Thank you. Mayor, did you want to say something?
I think this was a good beginning. You got to walk before you run. I think this group needs to get larger. We need to have school system representatives present. We need to have several of our spiritual leaders here with us. Because my daughter was a school teacher, my wife was a school teacher, and you can't educate the kids and you can't get them going on straight when it starts at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. when they walk in the classroom, and it stops at 3 when they walk out. Families, we live in a different world today. When I was a kid, if you had a single parent family, then the grandmothers and the grandfathers helped out. Well, then back then, they were in their 60s and 70s. Now life's changed. Grandparents are in their 40s. They gotta work. So a young brother needs help. They can't necessarily count on the grandparents.
They want to hang
That's
out.
why the religious organizations gotta be involved. Schools gotta be involved. We as a community gotta be involved. Because this isn't gonna get any better unless we step forward. Really do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you. So thank you everybody who participated, and what we'll do Again, we'll make all this information available in the clerk's office, but we'll set a follow-up meeting. And maybe, like I said, we'll work on a resolution to get on the agenda. But as we start putting forth legislation and things, we're gonna need you to support and show up at those council meetings to support what we're trying to do, so that people know that we're serious about this, and that the people that are doing all the shooting and all of that, that we don't want them here, and we don't want them here on the streets. So I think if collectively we all kind of come together as a united force that that we want them locked up and stay locked up until their court date, I think that will go a long way. I think that will go a long way. So thank you for participating tonight. Meeting adjourned.